you, Councillor. Councillor Casey.
I'll be quite short. It's just to reassure everybody, despite being absent for the last 3 months, I have indeed been online and virtual with regard to keeping up to date with everything that was happening in Auckland. And one of the tests, and I had legal advice just to bolster this, is that I come to this meeting having read all the reports presented to councillors. And so today, I mean, it is always evidence-based with me, most of the time. Today, though, as... Sorry? Today, though, as the councillor for Albert Eden Roscoe, I have before me very clear evidence from the people of Auckland generally. 57% want a 2.5% rates increase. My two local boards, and congratulations, Councillor Simpson, for following your local board. My two local boards, Albert Eden, 56.85% want a 2.5 rate increase, and Puki Tapapa want a 56% rate increase. So if you don't actually follow what the people of Auckland are saying, what your local boards are saying...
56% supporting.
2.5.
What did I say?
56% rate increase.
Just being unlikely. Another amendment on the floor, I think. You're moving an amendment.
You've been away too long, Kevin.
You really think?
I'll stop there.
We got the message, though.
Councillor Lee. Mike Lee.
Yeah, I just I want to pick up on what Councillor Watson said. There's a political debate going on, and it's between 2.5 and 2%. I think that represents about $7.5 million over the year, over our $5.4 billion budget overall. The fact of the matter is, for political reasons, the long-term plan 3.5% has been reduced to 2.5%. That's fair enough. Mayor Goff on the hustings decided to go for 2.5% during his election campaign, which was 1% below that led by the previous mayor. That's fair enough. Now we're haggling over 0.5%. And what I'm concerned about, 2 points. One is the finger pointing between the 2.5% people who are apparently on the moral high ground, even though they'd cut the long-term plan by 1% for political reasons, and the 2%ers who are the victims of having fingers pointed at them and being called politically motivated. I don't agree with that. It's not helpful. The second point is, if life in the super city was just a difference between 0.5%, how easy it would be. But our problems are much more systemic than that. We have systemic internal problems and systemic external problems. Systemic internal problems in the way we procure services and how we spend way too much on ourselves. And in regard to external problems, we are dealing with a monopolistic construction market, and that seems to feed right through the food chain. So we have major problems, members, and they're way bigger than 0.5%. So please don't feel too much on the moral high ground by being 0.5% better than thy neighbour. Thank you.
Member Kaka.
Kia ora koutou. Alf, now I know why you don't answer my emails.
Eating chocolate biscuits.
Just on a couple of points. To me, this debate is all about the legacy that we leave for our children, our next generations. Yep. To me, it's about stepping up to the mark and doing what we can today, as opposed to leaving it for my tamariki, for my mokopuna. So, in principle, to me, it's the decision we make today kind of starts the whole legacy that we want to shape. So, I guess the other point is the cost, the further cuts to programs, to services and to activities as a result of going to a 2% versus a 2.5%. In actual fact, I wanted 3.5%, but because I think it is about investing now. Yep. And taking the hits. Some people, you had the Fords who take it up. And that's kind of what we have to do right now, you know. And so to me, I think I feel concerned for the people who will have to suffer the cuts, you know, in any of the activities, which will be our people out in our communities, and ultimately staff. You know, on one hand, we're considering a living wage increase, and the next minute we might be saying, well, here's your envelope to say you're gone. It just doesn't sit right with me. So in terms of that, you know, and also the whole process of this, you know, turkeys will never ask for an early Christmas. Right? Turkeys never ask for an early Christmas, and I guess that's what I'm hearing here. The people who will suffer most, i.e. our community and the frontliners potentially, will be the ones who will suffer most when we look at these cuts. So my final point is I support what Councillor Cashmere is saying in terms of the you know, we've got to invest in the infrastructure, we've got to get that right, and by reducing this to 2% to me is not heading in the right direction. Let's be bold, let's be brave, let's show some leadership, let's stand up and do our bit so that our tamariki can enjoy or not have to face this very question to the degree we're having to make today. So time for leadership, folks, time to step up to the plate. I'll certainly be voting for the, was it 2.5%.
I've just replied to your email, by the way.
Councillor Collins.
Chocolate marks all over.
Thanks, Chair. Mālo soifua maua lau sunga te whono, in acknowledgement of Samoan Language Week.
Hey.
So, I know, welcome everybody, and I think it should be made an official language of New Zealand. But that aside too, I commend people for raising the 2%, but I want to stand with my community who overwhelmingly came back and said 2.5, and you add that with the 3.5s and you've got quite an interesting figure. I wanted to focus my discussion on the fact that I think the area with which Councillor Filipaina and I represent, which is the economically most deprivated area in the city, is making a very clear stand today. And they're saying to us that we want you to show the leadership that you stood on the platform when you both got elected. And I think that leadership comes to them saying we're already paying extra. The people in Māngere o Tahuhu o Tarapapa Toitoi already pay extra through a targeted rate so that they can get into the swimming pools for free. And it's our people who are drowning. And so it's those swimming pool programs are vital for our people. And so what I think the message is from our community is this, is that we are prepared to pay together in order for Auckland to play together. And if we're going to play well, let's do this well. My expectation of the public service, if we're getting these kinds of figures where if we go to 2%, we're going to have to get a savings of a further $7 million, and off my very terrible calculus figures, that could cost us 300 jobs if we look at the library example as an example to base that on. So we don't want to lose jobs. It's the people in South Auckland and Manukau who aren't on a living wage, who are on a minimum wage, and they're the ones who are telling Alf and I we want to pay a little bit extra in our rates because we want the city to fly. And for me, that is the message, that we have to do this together. And many of those people are represented in those red shirts saying living wage today. And they're here, and what they're saying is clear. We are prepared to pay extra so that we get services that meet the needs of our community. So my message is clear to the public service and to this council, that we should jolly well, damn well, consult in other languages, other than English. When I ask for a whono, so that the people who speak Tongan and Samoan and Tuvaluan can come along and understand it, that's my expectation. Because that is their expectation when they're pumping out extra in the 2.5%. Mayor Goff, congratulations. The people of South Auckland were clear, the people of Manukau were clear in their support that they wanted this, and you've come out with it, and we congratulate you on your strong leadership. But that leadership is about this council saying, let's do it differently. If the people of Manukau, who earn the least in the city, are going to be paying more, then we expect better from council. And so I'm standing with those people today for 2.5%, but my message is very clear, that we expect better from the public service, and we expect courage from our leaders, from our civic leaders in this city. Thank you.
Well said.
Thank you, Councillor Collins. I I can't support this 2% rate rise, I'm afraid. I'm one of the 4 or 5 people around here that would have actually stuck with the 3.5, which is in the LTP, but I respect the mayoral proposal and his commitment, and I've come around to be comfortable with 2.5. There are 2 reasons really that are strong for me. Is one, the public feedback, which was so important to a lot of councillors here. So we just got to reiterate again that the feedback was 72% wanted 2.5% or 3.5% versus 25% who said 2%. That is across the board, across every ward, and we had 15 local boards that also supported that same formula, with 5 of them really not wanting to comment because they couldn't get agreement. Interestingly, 3 of the local boards that actually wanted 3.5% come from lower decile wards, but they were quite staunch and supportive to saying, we believe this is what has to happen because the city is growing so fast and we are stuck in traffic all the time trying to get to work. So that was an important consideration. Second important consideration for me, and I did ask the staff to come up with the statistics, but we've actually got it here, is the CPI inflation rate is 2.2% as of April of this year for the previous year. It's accelerating. As you know, inflation is returning. So, and that has been signalled by the government and by the Treasury and the Reserve Bank. So, but interestingly, the construction costs increase in the residential sector up to June 2016 was up by 6%. Okay,
to what?
6%. That's the construction index. Now, the forecast increase for the construction cost increase over 2016 to 2019 is a range between 3.2 and 4.1%. So these are figures that are bigger. This is just trying to keeping ahead. 2.5% is really us just treating water. We know we've got a $7 billion gap over the next 10 years. 2.5% is treating water. We're getting construction index, etc., and CPI that actually accelerating beyond even 2.5%. So I'm certainly urging all those councillors that are not sure what they're going to do that they please do not support this amendment and will go for the substantive. So, Councillor Darby and then Councillor Cooper.
Thank you, Chair. Look, I think we're speaking to both the motions, the one moved by our Mayor Goff and yourself, and the amendment. The amendment suggests that we've in some ways not trawled through every division, every CCO. Just about every individual in this organisation has seen the correspondence from their managers saying become even more efficient. They've seen those letters come down through the divisional managers for now 7 years. And I remember the words of the outgoing Mayor, Len Goff. He said to me, and Brown. My faux pas. Mayor Len Brown said to me, he said, good luck to the incoming Mayor and the Council looking for even further savings.
Yep, he did say that.
Good luck, he said. Well, the incoming Mayor, the current Mayor, Mayor Phil Goff, has, and all of us have asked for this organisation to look again. And that looking will never ever cease, because that's how you run a good business. You always look at the operation of your business. It's dynamic, it's changing, there are different inputs every day, and every good manager in this organisation is doing their task and has done that task over the last 6-7 months. So to suggest arbitrarily there's just another 0.5% to trim without identifying uniquely where it will be. And one thing that has bugged me sitting around the many briefings that we've had, the workshops that you've chaired, Mr. Chair, on this budget over the last many months, admittedly not full houses often of members, but one thing that has bugged me is really for members to put their finger on what it is that should be cut. And I've not really heard that. I've not heard it. I've seen the staff come forward and identify those savings, fleet management, etc. I won't go through the list. But we've also heard from our directors our senior managers. They've come before us at this table and other tables, and I think some 200 plus of them have come forward at the table presenting their divisional budgets and recommendations. And every one of them, I think, has offered something. Just about every one of them. But we have had some dire warnings as well. Absolutely frank, candid and dire warnings that if we go backwards in this area, we will be creating an ongoing deficit. And the Deputy Mayor referred to some of the costs that our communities, be they residential community, good ordinary Aucklanders, business, etc., the costs that they are facing in particular areas of Auckland. Commuting in Auckland is costing billions. It's just phenomenal. And it's not just the congestion on motorways. We've got brand new train systems where there is no more standing room. We've got a busway in my area where there's no standing room on the platforms. We've got ferries that are waiting 11 minutes to berth downtown because we haven't proceeded with the Central Wharf strategy and got that sorted. The list goes on. It is costing us an enormous amount, and we are not, even though we're doing terrific numbers when we're just about to break 90 million public transport passenger numbers for the year, record numbers, we are still not keeping up with that demand. There are two significant crises facing Auckland, and they haven't really been mentioned here. I think Councillor Hulse alluded to it, and I know other members are aware of it. There is a transport crisis, and inextricably linked to that, there is a housing crisis. They are joined at the hip. We are exiling today more young people out of the city. They are going to foreign countries and other cities in New Zealand because they've given up on Auckland. Our seniors are giving up on Auckland. They're going to places like Tauranga and New Plymouth and other cities as well. They cannot afford to live here because we have not kept up, and former administrations, well before the Auckland Council, have failed to keep up. Transport costs for New Zealanders, and this is a general figure, have gone from 16,000 in 2012 to 19,000. Well beyond what the average rates have been in total have been calculated at. And I think, Mr Chair, you asked for a reply on the construction price indices. Well, maybe we'll have it soon, but I understand it is running at 300% ahead of the CPI, the general CPI. I think it might be running at around about 6.5%.
Just ticking over 5 minutes, Councillor Darby.
Okay. Mr Chair, it's not enough to arbitrarily just throw 2% on the table. You've got to show what's going to give. Is it the road ceiling at Rodney and Franklin? Is it the hundreds of millions of dollars that we're putting into supporting the East-West link as well? That's our component. The Unitary Plan and Future Urban Land Supply Strategy are now pretty much in place. They have made feasible 220,000 housing units, but you need this budget at 2.5% to enable and deliver, implement the transport infrastructure to allow Aucklanders to stay living in Auckland.
Thank you, Councillor Darby. Councillor Cooper to
Thank you.
wrap it up.
Thank you, Mr Chairman. I'm afraid, though I would love to be able to say to people, let's have a lower increase, I can't support it, unfortunately. I mean, and also I can't even support my local boards, who were two of the three that said, let's stick to 3.5 as we had all agreed, and the community had agreed in the long-term plan. And unlike some media commentators who say that I'm leaning now towards the more, I'm right-leaning, but what's happening to me, I'm going to vote with the mayor. It's the same as last term, whatever. You're going to win a couple from me, Phil. It's all good, And so I'm neither for nor against the mayor. I just want to make the decisions based on the evidence and the work we've done over the last several months. And and I know, and I think it was very brave of our Henderson, Massey and Waitakere Rangers local board to say that, because you might have forgotten your cousins in the West, Councillor Collins.
I'm remembering them
But
now.
we have some very, some difficult situations for some of our people too. And the next highest amount of Polynesian people in the region live in the Henderson Massey local board after your areas. And so, so there's that. So I think, I need to stick in the middle, because I'm all about trying to balance things. Though I have to just a nod to Councillor Hulse's comments around the fact that we need to have a very grown-up conversation with our community. Nobody wants high increases. It's the same as Member Kake said. No one's going to vote for an early Christmas. No turkey's going to vote for an early Christmas. No one's ever going to say they want the rates to go up. Only a very small percentage, because they actually get it. They get it that we're way behind. We're way behind on infrastructure, and not through our fault, or it's just what happened before amalgamation, and we had a lot of different people who couldn't agree on going ahead with doing the right thing in transport. A house the same value as mine in Wellington pays $7,200 a year in rates. I pay $4,200. That's $3,000 a year difference, and I would actually say that we get a hell of a lot more for our rates in Auckland than they do in Wellington. So, relatively speaking, we do not pay high rates against the value of our homes. But we all want more and more and more. And hey, look, of course we do. We're a global city. And we really want our transport to work. We want stuff to work. And we want to be able to see value. And that's all I've ever promised, is value for your rates. So I'm not, I've never, stuck my, pinned any number to anything, because you can't until you've got the facts in front of you. But what I am really concerned about is that if you look at this scenario, that 2.5, where it says borrowing capacity, it says all capacity consumed. So that means if we really want to deliver this infrastructure, later on in the month and over the next little while before the LTP, we're going to have a very big, tough conversation about getting real, about divesting our assets that don't contribute to the public good. So not about water, not about parks, not about libraries, but about the stuff that doesn't contribute to the public good, but that could release funds so we can actually borrow the billions of dollars we need to build Auckland. So I'm hoping to hear some really good conversations around that, and a lot of us will have to let go of some of idealistic notions we have about owning everything. We don't need to own everything, but anyway, thank you. That's all I need to say.
Thank you. Right. Well, thank you, Councillor Cooper, and we have Councillor Denise Lee, who has the right to reply.
Thank you,
Put the amendment.
Mr. Chair. We do have much bigger, wider decisions on funding instruments and levers coming. I acknowledge that, and those who have said that today, but this is not it. We make the decisions and we decide the mix for this year. And don't forget that we are adding items into this budget. All extraordinarily emotive arguments aside, on a 0.5%, can we do this? Yes. But if we don't have the political will today, then we head on to 2.5%. Interesting, though, I don't see any amendments up there for 3.5%. As for, and this is my final comment, and I can't resist it, as for the hate mail comments and the retorts on making hard decisions, just hold on for the rest of the agenda. None of us will be immune. Thank you, Mr. Chair. We go on to voting, hopefully.
Right. No more speakers. We're going to put the amendment.
By division.
I'm imagining it would be by division, so we...
By division.
Just repeat
Okay, sorry, I've got something in front of me, I can't read it. So the amendment said that the Finance and Performance Committee recommend that the governing body adopts an average increase to both the fixed and variable portions of the general rate for existing ratepayers of 2% for the final annual budget 2017-18. Quite clear what we're voting on? Okay.
Councillor Clough.
No.
Councillor Casey.
No.
Deputy Mayor Cashmore.
No.
Councillor Collins.
Against?
Councillor Cooper.
Against.
Councillor Darby.
Against.
Councillor Filipaina.
Against.
Councillor Fletcher.
For.
Mayor Goff.
Against.
Member Henare.
No.
Councillor Hills.
No, thank you.
Councillor Hulse.
Against.
Member Kake.
Kahore. It's no.
Councillor Denise Lee.
For.
Councillor Mike Lee.
No.
Councillor Newman.
Against.
Councillor Quacks.
For.
Councillor Sayers.
For.
Councillor Simpson.
Against.
Councillor Sir John Walker.
No.
Councillor Wayne Walker.
For.
Councillor Watson.
For.
Right, well, that has been lost by 16 votes to 6, so when we come back to A and B, it is back to the substantive original motions from the Merrill report. We're going to have a 10-minute break. We're going to be back at 12 o'clock. Thank you.